Right, welcome in, folks. Appreciate you guys jumping in here on a Mount Polumbus Speaks episode. We had training camp today. The Pats came on. I was out there. My vacation is over, and I'm back into grind mode. Time to be at training camp every single day. It was good to be out there. Hot day. Broncos had a bit of an abbreviated practice, which I was surprised by. They got in, they got out. They clearly had an intention on making sure that everybody stayed healthy on their first day of pads, although that did not happen. There were a couple injuries that happened today, including Alex Singleton, and Zach Allen got banged up. I'll tell you about that a little bit later in the show. As we let folks trickle in here, as we've got a live episode happening. As always, appreciate you guys joining in to Mount Polumbus Speaks. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, hit that link in my bio on Twitter. Go on over to YouTube and hit subscribe. It'll take you 3.5 seconds, and you'll make sure you don't miss out on any of my content, which all lives on the YouTube platform. I do need to take a quick second here to thank the title sponsor of Mount Polumbus Speaks, which is Safeway, my favorite Colorado grocery store. I've been a loyal customer of Safeway for a long time now, and they've been a loyal partner of mine for a long time now. So I'm super grateful to Safeway. They've been my favorite local grocer, serving Colorado families since 1926. From fresh produce to tender cuts of meat, Safeway offers local fruits and vegetables from Colorado farms, and they serve Colorado proud Angus beef. Beautiful, good meat. I love the steaks I get from Safeway. Safeway proudly supports Colorado farms and local small businesses, from Oloth Corn and Rocky Ford Melons to Palisade Peaches. So know that when you shop at Safeway, you are supporting local businesses. You can learn more at Safeway.com or shop in your local Safeway store today. All right. I feel like my crystal ball was crystal clear. Anybody that's been listening to Mount Polumbus Speaks here over the last couple of weeks knows that I spent a lot of time talking about contracts, talking about the guys that want extensions. Those guys are Courtland Sutton, Zach Allen, Nick Benito, and Jonathan Franklin Myers. And again, if you've been listening to the podcast, you knew exactly how I thought that was going to go down. And today it went down, at least at the beginning, exactly how I had predicted, with Courtland Sutton being the first domino to fall. Sean Payton was asked about Courtland Sutton, who had been skipping out on the team periods. He was not holding out, but he was not participating in the team periods of training camp for the last few practices. I would imagine that was simply a decision from Courtland Sutton to make sure that that's right, Steve, first contract down, 3 to go, but I would predict we only get 2 more to go because I don't think that Jonathan Franklin Myers is going to get a new deal. I might be wrong. We'll see. Jason, I don't know anything about that. Sounds scary. I'll see if I can look into it. If you got any further details, send me a link on Twitter. I'll check it out. Maybe we can talk about it live on the show. But that's the first I've heard of shooting at the NFL office out in New York. So that's a terrible deal. Send me the info, though. I'll try to take a look at it. And if I can digest it in time, we will talk about it on the show. But back to the Broncos and what happened today. I always thought that Courtland Sutton was going to be the first domino to fall for a number of reasons. The biggest reason being that I thought it was an easy deal to get done. Look, both sides had been very friendly to one another over the last 6-8 months as they discussed a new deal. The Broncos told Courtland Sutton last offseason that, hey, go out there and prove it this year, and we're going to give you a new deal. Well, Courtland did go out there. He did prove it. He had a fantastic year last year. He proved that he is a very legitimate number one, maybe not a top 10 guy, but he's a number one wide receiver, and he's the number one wide receiver for the Denver Broncos. So he earned himself a new contract, and the Walton Penner Group has done the honorable thing. They have now given Courtland Sutton a 4-year extension worth $92 million, I believe. Maybe it was 91, I forget. That comes with $41 million fully guaranteed. So it works out to a $23 million per year deal, which is a boatload of money that any last one of us would be fired up to get. $41 million fully guaranteed, which is a boatload of money, which any last one of us would be happy to get. Hey, honey, how was your day? Well, I went to work today. I signed a piece of paper. They put $41 million in my bank account, so it was a pretty good day, honey. Why don't we go ahead and book that vacation out to Italy for next offseason? As a matter of fact, go ahead and make it a month-long vacation because we got the dough to pay for it. Courtland Sutton will, if he sees the entirety of this contract, which he might not because it really is a 2-year deal, the Broncos guaranteed a little bit less than 2 years of that contract. Typically speaking, you guarantee about 2.5 years so that the team has to make a decision in that third year. The Broncos guaranteed a little bit less than 2 years of it, and it doesn't matter. I mean, although he didn't get that second or that third year, half of it guaranteed, Courtland got 41 guaranteed. And that's a hell of a day no matter how you look at it. Look, why was it an easy deal to get done? Why did I think Courtland Sutton was going to be the first domino to fall? Because believe it or not, at $23 million per year, that's really not that much money for a number one wide receiver in the NFL. I'm going to pull up the NFL wide receiver salaries real quick just so I can tell you what we're talking about here. But even with the brand new deal, so making $23 million per year, Courtland Sutton is the 18th highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. That's very friendly. That's like a very normal deal. It wasn't some extreme deal. Courtland Sutton wasn't trying to become the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. He wasn't trying to become a top 5 highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. He just wanted fair market value for the value that he brings to this football team. This is a fantastic deal. It was a no-brainer for both sides. Both sides are going to walk away happy. And Courtland Sutton, like I was starting to say, what makes this unusual, usually when you hit free agency and you're number one at your position, you're the starting left tackle, you're the starting right tackle, you hit free agency, well, you are trying to become the highest paid player in the NFL. And if you're not trying to become the highest paid, then you certainly want to be a top 5 highest paid player in the NFL. Courtland was not delusional about his value. The Broncos were very fair about his value, and they've now made him the 18th highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. Look, there are guys right now making $40 million per year at the wide receiver position. That's what Jamar Chase is making. Justin Jefferson's making 35. CeeDee Lamb's making 34. DK Metcalf's making 33. Garrett Wilson, 32.5. A.J. Brown, $32 million. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys in the NFL that are all making over $30 million per year. It was easy. It was just an absolute no-brainer. And what's beautiful about this deal is that usually by the time you get to the back half of the deal, when you get past the fully guaranteed portion, which for Courtland is about 2 years, by the time you get to that point, more times than not, you have actually priced yourself out of the NFL because the contracts just start escalating and you're making more and more money every year that goes by. What the Broncos have now done with Courtland Sutton, they put him in a position that if he plays good football, he could very well play out the entirety of this contract. He could play all 4 years of it, which is cool because by the time he gets to year 3, by the time he gets to year 4, in particular year 4, let's say Courtland Sutton is still playing good football for you. Number one, I should say first off rather than number one, because first off, even if he is not the number one wide receiver on this team by year 4, at $23 million per year, that will actually be a very market fair rate to pay your number 2 wide receiver on your team. So say Courtland Sutton's your number 2 wide receiver on the team. He'll be making $23 million per year. He'll be happy. He's making a boatload of money when he's 32, 33 years old. And the Broncos have got a good wide receiver under contract at a fair market value. By the time he gets to year 3, by the time he gets to year 4 in particular, I would wager to bet that Courtland Sutton would be like, I don't know, the 25th, maybe even the 30th highest paid player in the NFL. Because every year that goes by, you're going to have 4 or 5 players that are going to get a new deal. They're all going to get bumped up into that $35, $40 million per year range, which is the top end range for an elite wide receiver in the NFL. And you're going to be looking at Courtland Sutton, and you're going to think, hey, we've actually got pretty good value here in a guy that we're paying $23 million per year. What's amazing for Courtland Sutton, and I am definitely not knocking Courtland because I'm a huge fan of Courtland Sutton. I was a defender of Courtland when, yeah, that's right, Steve. This definitely does put Courtland in a position to retire as a Bronco. There's no question. I'm not knocking Courtland here, so don't hear it that way. I've been a huge defender of Courtland Sutton. Even like it was just a year ago that people wanted to get rid of Courtland. They wanted to trade him. They wanted to cut him. They wanted to get rid of him. They definitely didn't want to pay him. And I was defending Courtland Sutton left and right. But what's crazy here about Courtland Sutton is that if he plays out the entirety of this contract, he will have made $160 million as a Denver Bronco. That's pretty wild, man. He's only made 1 Pro Bowl. I think he's like a on the outside looking in type of Pro Bowl player just about every single year. So he's like a fringe dude. $160 million is a boatload of money, and it puts him in prime position, believe it or not, to go down as a Ring of Fame player for the Denver Broncos. If Courtland plays out the next 4 years of this contract, he will end up in the Ring of Fame for the Broncos, which is a cool deal for him. And honestly, it's a hell of an honor when you really put it into context of the quarterbacks that Courtland Sutton has had to make do with. Man, he's been playing with a bunch of bad QBs, and he's been producing at a high level. So happy for Courtland, happy for the team. This is a great deal. Now you get to focus on what comes up next. I have predicted that Zach Allen will be the next domino, and then you'll start talking to Nick Bonito, but you may or may not get that deal done this year. You might have to get to next offseason before you do it. And then my prediction is that Jonathan Franklin Myers is probably going to be an unhappy camper because although he's worthy of a pay raise, he is underpaid. You can't pay him all, and he's got to be the lowest man on the priority list. All right. I was out at practice today. The pads came on, and it was not what I expected. I am accustomed to the first day of pads being a violent, grinded out, grueling practice. That's what it always was during my day. But look, I guess get off my lawn here moment. That was a soft practice. I'm not calling the players soft. Let me be very clear about that because the practice was designed to get in, to get out, to protect one another, and to avoid injury. The practice was an hour and 28 minutes long. I'm telling you, in my day, when we put the pads on, that first practice, we're talking about a 2.5-hour practice. We're talking about testosterone brewing. We're talking about fights happening. There was none of that. There were no fights. There was nothing that came even close to it. There was no testosterone-filled moments where guys were in each other's faces. It was a protective practice. They were in a what we would call thud mode. When I was playing thud mode, that meant that a linebacker collides with the running back in the hole. Well, we're going to thud up. I'm going to bang you with my pads. I'm going to rock you pretty good, but I'm not going to take you to the ground. But I was going to hit you. For sure, you were going to get hit. What I saw out there today was practically a two-hand touch. I mean, there was no thud going on. There was no collisions between wide receivers and defensive backs. There was no collisions between running backs and linebackers. But again, this was by design. Clearly, Sean Payton had told these guys that's what he wanted, not calling the players soft at all. It just was not what I expected. Look, Sean Payton, for a guy that comes from a Bill Parcells background, a guy that has got a reputation as being a hard-nosed son of a gun, I'm telling you, he's really not that hard-nosed. He's actually one of the more progressive coaches in the NFL when it comes to player protection and injury prevention. He's been very, very careful over the last year and a half to not put his guys in jeopardy. And, well, that's cool. Whatever James says, he's wrong. This is a great deal for the Denver Broncos. It's a great deal for the Broncos. It's a great deal for Courtland Sutton. What was I saying? Oh, Sean Payton's a progressive coach, and I'll give him credit because the Broncos' injuries over the last season were way down. And he's got a collective unit between the strength staff, the training staff, and him. They all work together. They all design these practices. They come up with the timing, how long they're going to be out there on the field, how hard they're going to hit, all those sorts of things. But unfortunately for the Broncos, it doesn't matter how hard you try to prevent injury. This is a 100% injury guaranteed sport, and we did have a couple injuries out there today. Alex Singleton walked into the training room on his own accord. It was late in practice. He was not limping. It was not a lower body injury. When I saw it, I saw him holding his hand, and we did find out after the fact. Mike Kliss tweeted out that Alex Singleton, in fact, broke his thumb. So it's actually not that big of a deal, especially playing the linebacker position. If this was regular season, he would club that sucker up. He'd probably be out there tomorrow. It's not regular season, so it sounds like he's going to take about a week off, 7 to 8 days, let that thing heal up. Then he'll put a club on it. He'll cast that sucker up. He'll get back out to training camp, and he will continue playing football. In terms of injuries, fortunate that it's not a very serious one. But anytime you see Alex Singleton walking off the field, you get a little bit spooked because he is coming off a very serious injury from last season. And you did just have another injury to Drew Sanders at that position, an inside linebacker. Drake Greenlaw had season-ending injury last year. So that room is all of a sudden very banged up. It already was banged up. I've heard some people talking about how deep that room is. I actually don't think it's that deep. I don't. Especially with Drew Sanders out. Look, you had Drake Greenlaw, who was banged up. You had Alex Singleton, who was banged up. And then behind them, you had a guy in Drew Sanders who really had never played football. You have Justin Strnad, who played really well last year, all things considered. I thought Justin Strnad filled in at a very high level last year, especially for a guy that's been a special teams player for the entirety of his career. But he's limited in what he can do. He's limited athletically. And you don't want to rely on Justin Strnad as a starting linebacker. So you got those three guys, and then you got Bailey, who, doesn't really have any experience at all. That room, to me, is a room that you got to keep your eye on. I feel good about that room if you can stay healthy. If Drake Greenlaw can stay healthy, if Alex Singleton can stay healthy, I feel good about that room. But if you get one more serious injury in there, watch out. You might have problems. You might have some big problems the rest of the season. All right, that's basically what I had for you today. Tyler's got a shirt on with sleeves. You're right. I got my workout in. I actually took a shower. Usually I haven't showered by the time I do my podcast. I put on a real T-shirt. Summer is almost over. That's a bummer. But football's here. That's the good news, and we all love football season. I'll be out there for practice again tomorrow. I'm planning on doing Mount Polumbus Speaks episode as often as I possibly can, so you can probably count on it coming in nightly, if not every other night. And look forward to talking to you guys soon. Again, thank you to Safeway, title sponsor of Mount Polumbus Speaks. And make sure you subscribe to my YouTube. Hit that link in my bio on X. Go on over to YouTube and hit subscribe. It'll take you 3 seconds.